Hello, my name's Robin Blaze and I'm just here to answer a few questions about the recent ORA recording of Spem and alium. It's an extraordinary achievement. Spem and alium is the most extravagant piece of music that's written, and also the idea that it's a reply to a kind of a musical conversation, that it was a sort of challenge between different composers to write this kind of extraordinary overblown construction for a ridiculous number of singers. When you think of choirs that basically start in 4 parts, by the time you've got to a double choir of 8 parts, you're already in territory of needing lots and lots of extra singers. So 40 parts is beyond the pale. It's an amazing achievement. Spem is an incredible piece. What makes it really amazing is that not only is it a construction on huge, extravagant levels of voicing and just overblown structure, but it's also an incredibly beautiful and expressive piece. It would be very easy to see it as an academic exercise, and it'd be very easy to understand why it's a challenge and a study rather than an expressive piece of music. But when you listen to it and when you perform it, what you realise is that there's heart and there's musicality and there's expression for the words. There's sentiment and feeling behind the music as well. So it just becomes much more than simply exceptional for the number of voice parts. It becomes this realisation of what you can do with these huge forces. And it makes it a really, really beautiful and rewarding piece, both to perform and to listen to. Organising a performance of Spem is an incredible undertaking. 40 singers, well chosen, who know this kind of repertoire and will sing together. That in itself is an achievement just to make it happen. So you can understand that performances of Spem are relatively rare. To counter that, of course, there's this great sense of achievement and there's a great challenge that people want to try and put Spem on. It's such an extraordinary piece. It's famous for this kind of like ridiculous nature of its scoring. And so as such, people are really excited to take part in it. I myself have done maybe half a dozen performances. I've done a couple of recordings, but it is a rarity. You know, I've been singing for 30 years as a professional, and it comes up every few years. The singing community always knows when there's a Spem coming up because nearly everyone gets the call, which is great, and it sort of reunites you with singers that maybe you haven't seen for a while, and it's just such a wonderful piece. It was a beautiful day when we recorded with Aura this version of Spem and alium. It was absolutely beautiful environment to walk into, a very light church, sort of really seemed to give the absolute idea of transparency in the environment as well as the music as well. So it sort of reflected in the physical surroundings what you might look for in the music. We had a great thing where we all stood in a circle around a microphone. So you had to kind of like find your place first of all. So, you know, choir 5 over here, choir 6 over there. And then, of course, what you've got is this amazing visual contact with all 40 singers. You know, the singers who are around you in the same choir, of course, you're in contact with, but then you're looking over sort of 20 metres away to the other side of the circle, and you can see the way in which the music is moving around the choirs. You can see the blocks of polyphony actually in action, physically, and moving around the choir. And that's very beautiful. And it was just one of those situations where the very first time that we sang it through, it was already incredibly beautiful. The sound was just absolutely gorgeous. And for me, of course, it's very nice. I'm almost certainly the oldest person who was singing on the recording, and it was really nice to go there and see so many of my friends kind of gathered from all sorts of different environments who I've worked with over many years, and also meet lots of new singers from a younger generation and just see how well that works together. So it's a very special event and a particularly beautiful recording. Spem and alium is a piece which blurs the boundaries between creativity and functionality, because we know that it was set sort of as a crossword puzzle challenge. The idea of writing for 40 parts was a challenge to the composer, as kind of this exchange to say, look, I can do this. I can write meaningful music in this most extravagant and ridiculous setting, and also I can get singers who can do it. We in the English court have this wealth of, in Talus's day, we have this wealth of vocal talent. I can get 40 singers who are capable of performing this music. It's an incredible piece. It's an incredible achievement, because not only does it work on this sort of functionality of being a puzzle, of being this, as I said, this kind of crossword puzzle of just how can you make 40 parts work together, but it also works expressively. It's an incredibly beautiful piece. And when you listen to the way that Talus uses the different textures, he doesn't just kind of think, well, I've got 40 parts, it's 40 or nothing. He actually moves the sound around the choirs incredibly beautifully and carefully. And the balance between having one choir, two choirs, three choirs, and then the momentous moments where all 40 parts come in and kind of have this incredible effect where suddenly the sound erupts from all of the choirs singing together, and all out of that incredibly precious seed of just the opening line of those two voices starting the initial material. It's an incredibly beautiful and expressive, momentous achievement. It's been an extraordinary time. First, the plus side. You have to balance these things, and you have to think about trying to put a positive spin on it. I've had a lot of time at home with my family, and that, as a professional singer, is something of a rarity, and it's something to be really treasured. During my life, I've spent a huge amount of time touring, working with ensembles in different countries, and just being away from home. The airport is a constant companion, and my suitcase is always either being unpacked or packed for the next trip. That has not been the case. There's been absolutely no live performance. There's been no engagements. So how has it affected us? It's made me stay at home, and I've appreciated that. That's been something to treasure. But the effect on the music industry and on the nature of what singers are doing and how we survive cannot be underestimated. It's been absolutely appalling. There's been no work. Given that being a singer is, generally speaking, an entirely freelance in lifestyle, people have lost their entire livelihoods. There's been a lot written about it in the press. Been various people who've written open letters as well. If you're lucky enough to fall in the bracket where the government has given some help, that's great. There's been a huge number of performers who don't fall in that bracket and who have literally lost all their earnings. One of the difficulties is looking forward. There is very little cause for optimism in terms of performing. The way that live performing in front of audience is going to come back is going to be very staggered, and it still looks like it's a long way off before we can try and fill concert halls. And we are in classical music where you need to fill a concert hall before in any way it's commercially viable. If you are asking people to put concerts on with only a third of capacity in a concert hall, they are losing money. And we are a business which is not a rich business, which relies on people funding it, and relies on patronage and sponsorship and all sorts of things. If you are taking away the number of tickets you can sell for a concert, that is a sort of an unsustainable challenge. There will be a time after this when we look back on it and we realise that music has come back, and I can't wait for that time. You know, it's been very difficult. You miss out on everything that is wonderful about making music. Most of all, you miss out on the interaction with your colleagues, which is, I think, why most musicians really love being musicians. To get to make music together with other musicians, with other people who share the same passion for what you're doing, is the most thrilling and rewarding thing you could ever wish for, and is the reason why you would choose it as a career. Is the only reason, actually, that you should choose it as a career, is just because you love the environment of actually making music. I'm hoping that I'm slightly pessimistic. I'm hoping that it comes back quicker than I imagine. We need to keep the pressure on, keep the idea of classical music and its importance to people and its importance to, as a commercial event in the government's mind. Classical music is a sort of a slightly niche interest at times. The government will move quickly to get football back on the agenda, to get crowds in there, understandably, because there's huge numbers of people. We don't have the same number of people calling for that kind of pressure to get our business back in the swing of things. We need to keep talking about it. We need to keep the pressure up, and we need to keep telling people how important it is that music and the arts return. I have a really, really broad taste in music. I listen to lots of classical music, of course. I listen to loads of Bach. I find listening to Bach is a constant salve to the spirit. It reflects every aspect of emotion. If I need lifting up, then I stick on the Christmas Oratorio. If I'm trying to sort of search for meaning and true beauty, I'll put on the St. Matthew Passion. If I'm trying to experience something new and fresh and varied, I'll listen to the cantatas. If I want purity of music, then I go to the instrumental music, I go to the keyboard music. It's music that just keeps on giving. I listen to a lot of singing, obviously. I listen to a lot of ensemble singing. I listen to a lot of solo vocal singing. I listen to a lot of pop music as well. I listen to a lot of sort of, I suppose you'd call it dad indie music. I like Radiohead. There's a particular singer called whose group is called This Is the Kit, who I absolutely love, who I'm sort of slightly obsessed with at the moment. Creative artists who do crossover stuff, like Björk, who worked with sort of live strings on ages ago and sort of manipulated classical sounds absolutely beautifully. I love the Peter Gabriel album where he worked with, I think, one of the London professional orchestras and re-recorded a lot of cover versions and a lot of his hits. There's 2 separate albums, and they are both absolutely glorious. I would, urge people who are interested in that kind of thing to look those out. Paul Simon, I think, everyone, Simon and Garfunkel obviously, but Paul Simon's solo work, the fact that he continues to be incredibly productive and incredibly creative, all sorts of different things that he's still releasing. He's something of a musical genius and a bit of a hero for me. This is the first time that I've sung for ORA Singers, and it's been absolutely amazing for me. It's been such a treat. Obviously I know about the group and I've got many friends who've sung for the group. I have particular friends who are in the management for the group. I hope that doesn't mean that's why I was booked, but they are one of the friendliest management teams of any group you could ever wish for. And as I say, I've got friends who I've known for far too many years who work in the team that runs the ORA Singers. They're an extraordinary group. They are a very, very talented, busy, dedicated group of singers. They're always doing new stuff, fresh ideas. To see the way that they expand to something like Spem and alium, adding all the extra singers to the core group, an amazing achievement. It's just so wonderful to see a group with so much going on, so much passion behind it, led so beautifully. So I can't really say that I've got more memories than just this one occasion, but that's still one to treasure. There are many words that you could use to describe Spem and alium. I think you'd have to go with majestic.